Customer complains about a low kind of toned growling that seems to be more evident on the highway and not necessarily back roads. Back roads probably because, well, we live in New England, and to hear any kind of noise other than your car falling apart on the back roads, yeah. So we took the car out on the highway, verified that growling noise, which sometimes could be associated with a couple of things. Number one, you want to check the brakes first and foremost, and then number two, wheel bearings. So in this particular vehicle right here, it's a 2010 Mazda 3 2.5. Doesn't really matter that it's a 2.5 or it's black or it has black leather interior. It's the rear of this vehicle that we can hear the growling or hub bearing, bad bearing noise that we're getting from this car. And because we're replacing one, and with the mileage that's on this car, we're going to be replacing both the left and right side of the rear of this vehicle, because we had taken apart the vehicle to inspect it for, you know, other issues such as brakes, rotors, and whatnot. We're going to replace it with the Evolution series, and it's actually K129, brand new rotors, zinc plated, drilled and slotted rotors for the rear, and the Evolution or Power Stop Evolution Series Sport brake pads. Which is nice about the Power Stop stuff or equipment is that it literally comes with everything that you need. Now I don't know if you could see the yellow box that was right next to it, but right there. So these are the hub bearings or wheel bearings, whatever you want to call them. There's the part number for that right there. Here's the part number for the actual brake pads if you just want to buy the actual brake pads for the car. And here inside is actually what the hub looks like right there. Brand new. I only use Moog. Obviously, you know, if you can't get Moog, you may have to go ahead and source another manufacturer. But for me, as far as replacement parts like such as this, it's Moog and Power Stop. So let's get to work. So you're going to want to safely raise the vehicle, which you can see where the jack's actually going underneath. There's a bar, basically ties the two, you know, left and right side of the rear suspension together, and you're going to take the jack and put it in the middle and jack up the vehicle. You want to grab yourself some jack stands, find a suitable location either on the frame or the suspension of the vehicle, and what we're going to do is we're going to go for the little loop in the spring pockets on both the right and left side of the car, and then we're going to slowly let it down. That's better. Obviously when you're using jack stands or jack and or whatever, the main thing is making sure that you're safe. So go ahead and give the car a little bit of a rock or a push to make sure that the jack stands is actually settled into position on wherever you attach them, and then obviously verify it by looking underneath and making sure that at least the four legs or the 4 points are contacting either pavement or a solid surface, and then you can see we're good there. We're good on that side. Buzz off these lug nuts, left and right side. I'm only going to do one side to show you one side, and what we're going to do is we're going to work on this side right here, which is my more, I guess, open area. It's always a good idea to go ahead and put gloves on. Now you can buzz these lug nuts off with either a 21mm or a 13/16. If you use the 13/16, it's going to be a little bit tight, so therefore we are going to opt for the 21mm. Now you see I usually always leave one single top lug on so it doesn't come flying off. So here you can see right now, this is why we're actually going to replace the rotors as well as the brake pads, because they are pretty much almost past that point of needing to replace them. I'm going to be doing that both on the left and right side of this vehicle. What I do recommend, and if you have the ability, is to use an air compressor with a nozzle attached. So you go ahead and just blow out all the dust and debris that's actually all and around the brakes and the rotor and the hub. I am going to douse it with WD-40 or PB Blaster. I prefer usually PB Blaster, but right now I dropped my can of PB Blaster, so that's no bueno. So right now we're going to go ahead and go with WD-40. And what we'll do is we'll spray the back side here. We'll spray those caliper mounting bracket bolts right there. It's one on the top, one on the bottom. I don't know if you can see that. and that will make it so that we can actually take that caliper off. But we just want to lube things up so things are more easily taken apart. Now, because we're going to be replacing, obviously, you know, the pads and rotors on the back side of this car, one of the things we also need to check is we need to check what's called the slide pin. So there's actually a pin, it's actually right here. It slides in between the ear of this caliper bracket, or this caliper, and actually connects to the actual caliper bracket. And what it does is it allows the caliper to slide or move or position back as you're applying the brakes, or when you're letting them off, it'll allow the caliper to just move. And those ears are on the top and bottom. This is the ear that I'm talking about right there on the bottom. Here's the ear right here on the top. And all that pin does is just slide into position right there. Mazda kind of has it right. And they actually have, this is a little boot, and there's a cap on the end of the boot. Right there. And I think you can see that. I'll take a picture of it. I'm going to take this 7mm Allen socket, stick it into the back side of there, and then we'll obviously break this free on the top, and the bottom has the same exact thing. Little cap right there, pop that cap off and put the little socket in there. You could actually use an Allen wrench, but I definitely recommend go ahead and using these. This is a lot easier. That's a gear wrench set that I've got doing that. Now, one of the things I do have ready is I have a caliper hook bracket all ready to go, so that when I pop off this caliper, I'll be able to hook it up and attach it to somewhere inside the body of the car, so I'm not putting too much stress on the hoses. Now on this side, what you can see is we got this little retainer clip that's actually connected to the caliper, and it's actually contacting the actual caliper bracket itself. And right inside, it's actually these like this little clip right here that has pins that actually go pretty far into the caliper itself. So you want to do is just kind of want to pry it out. You know, because of the corrosion that's actually inside this aluminum caliper, may just need to spray a little bit of spray actually on those right there, just to help free them up. And we'll go ahead and we'll just kind of twist and pull these out. See right there? See the rust on there? So it's a combination of kind of, I guess, rust and corrosion. So you don't have to worry about it. Just take your time. Don't be scared. There you go, see? See the corrosion rust on the tip of that? That's what was kind of keeping that in place. We get our caliper hanger bracket. We should be pretty close to this being freed up. We'll check it just by kind of putting our screwdriver in, top kind of like in top and bottom. Just give it a little bit of a pry. And just as long as this bolt right here is actually past the actual capture point, should be able to pry up on this. And hopefully just release it right out of the way. Pads and everything attached. But anyway, I think you kind of get the idea. Just gonna wiggle this back and forth, kind of get it out of the way. Look at that, the rotor wants to come with it. Ideally, this would actually pop off really easy, but because I'm doing a video, it's not going to pop off as easy as I'd like to see it. So there we go. And obviously with this type of caliper, we're going to want to kind of clean inside those holes, right inside there, so it'll actually receive the new pin a little bit nicer. So now what we'll do is take the caliper hanger bracket, and we will just hang it somewhere in here. Or not. There we go. Now it's out of the way. So here's the old pad. So here's the outboard pad. Look like we're getting pretty thin. Here's the inboard pad. Kind of the same thing. You know, it's got grooves and it's kind of, you know, it's wearing out. So time to replace it. So now, what that does is that now gives us the ability to see those other bolts that I was talking about, which is one right there and another one right there. You can see that. So those are the caliper bracket bolts, and there's two of those, top and bottom. I'm going to spray a little bit of spray on those. Now the caliper bracket mounting bolt, 14, which is going to be for New England, a tight fit because New England. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a long reach 14 mil. Just showing you can do this stuff with common hand tools. It does take longer, but you can do it. Break that one free. Get our ratchet in there. We'll get on this top one right here. Now, just so things don't go flying off, you can always put a lug nut on the actual one of the lugs just to kind of trap the rotor in place. The other way. And then you can go ahead and just pull the caliper bracket away. Now you can just take your rotor off. Now this is obviously where it gets interesting for, I guess you want to call New England. So there's the condition of the original hub that we are going to be replacing. So what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to go ahead and douse this with PB Blaster or WD. And those are the 4 bolts that we're actually trying to get after. So yeah, look at that. New England is just so wonderful to its cars. So I'm going to spray a little WD-40 on there. That one there, down there. Over there. And kind of just let that marinate for a little while. Now, here's the fun side of things, right? So what you have to do is, obviously, if you're doing this, you know, backyard mechanic type thing and you're working off of the ground, you gotta just obviously make sure that you give yourself, you know, enough room to get under the vehicle. And then seeing if I can show you inside here, got the flash on. So right inside there, see that bolt right there? There's 4 of them. There's one there, there's one over there, one down there, and one way over there. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that you can actually get to those bolts, which will be sometimes like a combination of different sockets or different lengths of extensions or whatever, but that's a 14 millimeter. But there's 4 bolts there that you need to loosen up. And yeah, so we're gonna go after those. Let's see how this goes. Just kind of reaching your finger in there and just popping it out. Alright, so here we go. So here's what the plug looks like. It's got a little release tab on it right there, and you push down on the release tab and pop out the plug. So what you got is I got a 14 on a shorty extension. I'm going to place it into the back there, get it right on. Put our 1/2-inch drive ratchet on there, and so we're going to do that to all 4 of them. Very carefully. sometimes what you have to do, use 2 different types of persuasion. So use the little hammer just to give it a couple taps. Tap it right on the edge of the flange here. Then as we rotate this, we can tap it on this side here. Give it a couple of taps on this back side. You can see it's coming free. Here we go. Couple more taps here. There we go. And we're out. So what we do have to do is we're obviously going to have to take the sensor off. So we're going to lubricate that right there so that hopefully we'll be able to pop this sensor out just as one complete piece and not replacing anything. So there we go. So we'll have to clean up this surface a little bit. The dust shield has seen better days, but it's still reusable. So we'll go ahead and take the scale that's actually on here. We'll take all the scale off and yeah, use ear protection, because when you're slamming a hammer into metal, take some sandpaper or a scraper or whatever and just clean this surface. And then the same thing on the inside here. Take some sandpaper, a small little file or whatever, and just kind of clean up this inner surface so that when you slide the new hub in place, it will, you know, slide in smooth. Now just take the hub out. Verify fitment by, honestly, taking this and plugging it into the wheel. Just kind of just throw it on the wheel. I mean, I know everything's all set anyway, but anyways, so what we're doing is we're concentrating now on taking this sensor and sliding it over to the brand new one. And that's going to be accomplished with an external Torx, which is a E7, I believe it is. Yeah, E7. That's going to be just taking that little sensor off right there. And that sensor just pops right out nice and easy. So we're going to clean this off. And then reinstall it in the new one. There we go. Hub surface is all cleaned up now. We cleaned up the inner lip. That's all set. We're going to put a little bit of grease on there just to facilitate with installation. And we'll put a little bit of a coat of grease along this edge just to make it easier for anybody else if they ever have to take this apart again, which for the life of this vehicle, I'm using Moog parts right there. Pretty sure these parts are going to outlast the vehicle itself. Take my grease, just going to put a smear of it just like this, right around this edge, around the circle. Just make it easier for reinstallation of stuff. So don't forget to put on your, oh, and also too, you probably can't see it very well, but there is an orientation of these bolts, and when you look at the actual hub itself, or you actually look at the arm, you can actually see on the hub, on the ears, these bolts right here are actually closer together than these top ones, denoting this is the actual bottom. Just take a bolt, stick it in, stick it through. Maybe it just makes it easier to kind of like, I guess, align or hang the dust shield back on. And then same thing, paying attention to the orientation. The spacing between this one and this one, it's a lot wider. So we'll go ahead and kind of put that in place. Just like that. Get a couple of threads started. Once we get a couple of threads started, can kind of just let it go. Now, under normal circumstances, you actually do have to crank. You normally do have to clean those HUD surfaces, but on this one, didn't have to. HUD bolts are all torqued down, all the way around. Do it a couple of times. I think about 50 or 60 or so foot-pounds is solid enough. It's kind of by feel. That thing is set. Grab a brand new rotor, grab some pads. Isn't that nice, huh? Thing of beauty right there. And what's nice about these, right? You can see what it says right there. They tell you which is which. So you can see that's passenger side rear. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a bolt and just kind of capture it. Just for a bit. Make sure we get in there and connect up our, wherever it is, our sensor wire. Feed that in and through. We'll connect that back up. So, sensor wire, I can't even see. Maybe you can. Sensor wire should be all connected up now. What we're going to do is we're going to take a wire brush and or a file. And we're going to clean these surfaces right here, which is right here where the channel, where the brake pads ride on. So we've got our brake caliper tool set out. And what we need to do is normally when you see pins like that, sometimes there's an arrow associated with that, but for the life of me, I cannot find an arrow. A lot of times there'll be an arrow right there denoting which way to actually turn this. So what I'm going to do is we've got left side, right side. I'm just going to go for the right side. And then what we need to do is just find the corresponding pin that's actually going to fit. And I'm going to go with this one right here because it looks like that's the one. Let's see. That's it. Let's take our tool out, which is the right-handed thread. Put our backing plate on it. And through. And then the end of this is magnetic. So you just take the piece and just kind of flip it on and it stays in position. All we should have to do is just turn this. And that piston should turn in. Which, yep. There you go. You can see it cranking in. Slowly but surely. And this also will give you a good gauge of how good your actual caliper is. And that thing went right in exactly how it should have. So we are good there. So now the piston's all retracted. What we're going to do is I'm going to get some of my caliper grease. Reinstall our caliper bracket. Now we have the caliper bracket all torqued down, ready to go. Put 2 lug nuts just on the face just to kind of keep the rotor kind of in place because it was flopping around a little bit. Doesn't always happen, but sometimes it does. And then when you're putting in your new pads, the pad that actually has the little butterfly spring to it actually goes to the inboard, and they just drop in, just like that. And then the other pad, obviously, that has no butterfly spring goes on this side right there, and that's what the new disc pads look like installed. Now I can just release our caliper from the hanger and let it swing down into position. Here we go. Grab our number 7 Allen. Same thing with the bottom one. Put a little bit of a torque on it. Take our little dust caps or seal caps, put those in place. Now we can open up our spring pack. You only need one of the springs. They're both the same, so it doesn't make a difference which side is which. What's unique about Power Stop is you usually end up getting more hardware than you need, which is great. So we'll go ahead and install this little retainer clip. Just making sure that these are set. That's it. Done. Now we can put the wheel on and then move on to the other side and we're done. That's how easy it is. So I hope this information helps somebody out there. This is working on a 2010 Mazda 3. What I did is I showed you how to basically replace the hub, the bearing hub and bearing assembly, along with throwing on a new rotor and throwing in some new brake pads. Just easy work. So this is just a quick little, I don't know, mechanics update from What's Up Guy Garage, working on a 2010 Mazda 3. Thanks for watching. And it's gone, and another happy customer. Got paid, and that's a good thing. Now I just gotta clean up the mess. Oh, piles of rust. Thank you, New England. Typical. Subscribe, why wouldn't you? Just giving you a quick little reminder about the giveaway that's happening, and it's on this vehicle right here, which is a 1/12 scale brushless desert racer 4-wheel drive. If you haven't entered into the contest, I'll leave a link in the description. Obviously, there's something down below, and it will point you to the video about the giveaway. Thanks for watching this episode of What's Up Guy Garage. There's always more to come. Put on gloves.